Villagers, thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. The battle for Africa is no longer being fought in whispers. It is being fought in the open, on the front line, and it is time to dismantle the lies. Take a look at the Sahel. Look at Captain Ibrahim Traore, our all-in-all, the savior, the protector in Burkina Faso. Dr. Arikana reveals a staggering, terrifying truth. There have been at least 38 assassination attempts against our all-in-all Traore that she knows of. 38 times they have tried to take his life. And why, we may ask? Because he chose to be a leader with the courage to look at the gold mines of his nation and declare that his people will no longer be poor while their wealth flows directly to Europe and France. Dr. Arikana exposes the profound absurdity of the current system. She reminds us that the uranium of Sahel, specifically Niger, powers 33% of France, giving them electricity, healthcare, and education, while the people of Niger and Burkina Faso are left in total darkness. And what does Africa get in return? They are paid an insulting 8 cents per kilo for uranium that is sold on the global market for 200 euros per kilo. Dr. Arikana asks the burning question: how stupid do we have to be to let this continue?
To assassinate Traore 38 times that I know of. Okay. Because he's developing his country. He's nationalizing the natural resources. He's taking over his gold mine. He said, there's no reason why my people should be poor when our gold is going to Europe, is going to France. Niger said, there's no reason why our people should be poor when our uranium is powering 33% of France, and what's left, they're giving us 80 cents per kilo, they're selling it at 200 euros per kilo. That's what a leader with balls will do. I'm taking what belongs to me. My people can no longer be hungry when you're stealing from me. My wealth can no longer continue to fund French education, to fund French healthcare, to power France when my people don't have electricity. How stupid do you have to be? That is all we are saying.
But you like Burkina Faso a lot.
I'm talking about the Sahel nations.
Disarming powers. Maybe that is the reason why he can protect himself from those who want to penetrate the government.
No.
So the people are you recommending that all African countries should have the army in power to make sure that they enforce development?
First of all, the African Union needs to redefine what is a coup. What France was doing in the 14 African countries, those were economic coups. Okay. When you say, initially, soon after independence in the 50s and 60s, 85% of their bank reserves of those 14 nations, they were forced to deposit with the Reserve Bank of France. They were forced to give up their natural resources. They were forced to buy all their military equipment, if approved, only from France. They were forced to get only training of their military by France. What do you call that? Those were coups, serious coups, but they were not being labeled coups. Come on now, baby. Talk to me. You're a smart man. And then when young men stand up and say, I'm tired of being hungry. You are a bully. You are taking my damn lunch every day. That's it. Today it's over. You're not taking my lunch anymore. You call that a coup? That was liberation.
That's liberation.
That is liberation.
Overthrowing a government.
Overthrowing a government? A puppet government?
So let's talk about.
So let's be serious. No, this is a very important topic.
Yes, it's a very important topic.
Because that is not a coup.
Yeah, it's not.
What happened in the Sahel is not a coup. It's young men standing up and defending their turf and saying, finally, were you happy with France continuing to eat your lunch?
No, I agree with you. So let's look at you say you also, I read a statement in your book where you say Patrice Lumumba, Sankara, those are coups. I think because you touched the issue of coup. You said that
they were assassinated.
They were assassinated. Yeah. Yes, and then you said those are forms of a coup in which they were overthrowing those who would rise for Africa.
Correct.
Yes. And then you also mentioned coups.
So let me say, there are coups and then there are coups. There are some coups that are mislabeled as coups, but they are not coups. Like what's happened in the Sahel.
Okay.
Black men finally are standing up and defending their turf and defending their turfs successfully. That's not a coup.
So
that is not a coup.
What should young men do to the AU? Do you think we should rise?
AU needs to be completely dismantled and start afresh. Just like the United Nations, completely dismantled and start afresh.
So you said in 2002, is it 2011? I'm not sure if, 2002. let me check my calendars. I think 26. You say that the budget for AU was almost like 64 million for them to go for a summit, which means to say that different African states, they fund the AU for summits, they fund the AU for them to...
The budget for the African Union, for the most part, is from Europe. That's the sad part. They don't fund themselves. They're trying, but for decades, AU was funded by Europe. So
that's the reason why they cannot voice against Europe.
Bingo. Part of the reasons.
And that the current Parliament, the building, it was built by the Chinese.
Correct.
So in other words, for the AU to be an effective organization just to deal with Europe, it is dealing itself.
Here's the thing. There's no reason why the AU should need funding from anybody. There's enough money in Africa. There is enough money in Africa. AU should be able to fund itself. Again, that's another joke. They go begging for peanuts. I want to mention which president flew all the way to France to get $40 million. Can you imagine? An African leader flying to Europe to beg for $40 million. How ridiculous is that? But this happens every day. So yes, we are a hopeless nation until we wake up. And the only way to successfully succeed at becoming an independent Africa is when all African leaders can come together and speak with one voice. When we can take the bull by the horns and simply say, what is not good for the European nations is not good for the Africans. That's it. If you cannot do it to your people, don't do it to our people. Your natural resources belong to your people. The natural resources in Africa belong to the Africans.
I think the first thing that should be done by Africans is to gain their economic independence. Make sure that they've got all the raw materials, and then they make them, they finish the products, and then they sell them to Europe.
Why should we send to Europe? We need, first of all, increase intra-Africa trade. Right now, intra-Africa trade is sitting at about 17%. Why are we sending the cocoa beans to Switzerland when we could, and then only for the Africans to fly to Europe and bring back chocolates? Chocolates that came from Ghana, cocoa beans from Ghana. Chocolate that came from the cocoa beans from Nigeria, from Cote d'Ivoire. It's simple. Africans love chocolate. Let's make the chocolate. Let's sell the chocolate to African countries first. If there's any surplus, maybe we will send to Europe. The people in Burkina Faso, I keep going back to Burkina Faso. They're saying we are going through some difficult times, but we found a leader who we believe in. A leader who is taking us, and we are seeing development in the past 3 years that we have seen in the past 30 years. So we are going to suffer. There's going to be some pain. But we know if we work together, if we unite towards a common goal, a better Burkina Faso is to come.
Africa failed to have one army, to have...
Are you listening to me, or am I talking to myself?
No, I'm listening to you.
So you're getting the point.
You're talking about brown envelopes, yes, you're talking about brown envelopes.
Precisely.
But I'm looking within Africa itself.
Yes.
We cannot always use Europe as a scapegoat.
We didn't say it's a scapegoat. We're saying we were defeated where it matters the most. Okay. We want to be British. We want to be American. The grass is greener over there, but we are not paying attention at the diamonds that are on our laps. The diamonds are not even on the ground. They are on our laps. Ours to get. The gold, ours to get. We're here in Zimbabwe. I tell the story of Kwekwe. It's an amazing town. Lots happening in Kwekwe. The entire city is a gold mine. People get up and go to the back of their houses, scoop up some soil. They know how to process it. And they get enough gold to buy groceries for the next month. That's how rich we are. But yet, even in Kwekwe, young people are leaving to go look for gold somewhere else. The riches are right here. And we must really be aware of what we have and now begin to come together to develop our own nations, to build our own nations. Burkina Faso has the formula. Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali, they're doing it. They're beginning to look from within. Let's build our nations from within. Do we have that understanding of what we actually have?
But okay, it's fine. I get you. Thank you for that point. But let's look at, for example, a country like Libya, where they wanted to do it the Burkina Faso way, if you've said, or the Zimbabwean way.
No, Libya didn't try to do that. Libya simply wanted to make sure that Gaddafi wanted a united Africa. He wanted to take it back to what was supposed to have been done in 1963. And he was moving fast. He had enough money. He understood that brown envelopes are being passed around. So he had enough money to buy anybody that needed to be bought in order to accomplish and achieve what our Pan-African fathers wanted to achieve in 1963. That's why they got rid of him.
So in
but we must increase intra-Africa trade. Africa really doesn't need anybody. I'm surprised that you even started by saying, oh, we sell to Europe. No, we need to sell within Africa. Why should we sell to Europe? I want chocolate.
We definitely need Europe. We definitely need Europe to as a buyer. As a buyer.
Stop. You're making me angry now.
Okay.
How can you say we need Europe? The word need needs to get out of your brain.
Okay.
We don't need anybody. Africans are self-sufficient. We get everything we need in Africa. Europe will tell you they don't need us. No, they need us. We don't need Europe. So, son, please, take that out of your head. We do not need Europe. Europe needs us. Let's work on increasing intra-Africa trade.
And then we're not having them in Zimbabwe. We're not having a lot of foreigners in Kenya. I don't know if we do have.
South Africa, there is a semblance that everybody's doing well, which is really sad. You know as much as I do. Some of the biggest shanty towns that I've seen are in South Africa. So it is these very same people coming out, crawling out of those shanty towns.
Okay.
Who are coming in and saying, you are taking our jobs. What jobs? These are street vendors. You can equally be a street vendor and make a living. But South Africans don't want to do that. They would rather be on welfare, stand in line to get some little donation from the government every month. You know. So again, most of it is really based on ignorance of our history. Ignorance.
But you're not answering the question, Doc. Because remember, before we talk about the unity of Africa, I think the problem we have to deal.
No, what is the question?
We have to deal with the causes.
hold on.
Why are we failing to unite as Africa? Because if I go to Ethiopia myself as a Zimbabwean, I find hungry Ethiopians who are going to say, "No, you are the one who's making us hungry here."
Okay, and again, maybe you're not listening to me. I said we were defeated where it matters the most.
Okay.
That is the mind.
Okay.
The stupidity is because of the mind.
Okay.
Now tell me why tomorrow African parliamentarians cannot vote on the free movement of people. Give me one reason why they can't do it. None.
Yeah, of course, I think the free movement of people is being caused by, if you come to my house, I want to have enough to feed my kids.
But again, what's going to happen is, while there may not be an opportunity for you in Zimbabwe, but when you move, you might find that there's an opportunity for you in Botswana, in Ghana. But how are you going to know if you don't move? If the visa is stopping you. I was talking to one of the former the Commissioner for Trade at the African Union, and he showed me a picture. It looked like that was a road, and there were women on this side selling their wares, tomatoes and what have you. Women on the other side doing the same thing. He said, Ambassador, what do you see? I said, well, I see a road and women on either side. And he said, no, that is a border. When the women on this side run out of tomatoes, the customers cannot go over here. The tomatoes that they can see across what looks like a road, they need a visa because that's another country. They cannot cross over to buy the tomatoes on this side because they don't have a visa. How stupid is that?
That's a crazy world. So,
are you beginning to see what?
Yes, I'm getting.
It is absolutely mind-boggling when you think about the things that we could address as Africans, and we're not addressing them. It defies logic. The only thing you can say is we're just some of the most stupid people I know, because we simply cannot do some of the basic things we need to do to take care of ourselves, to liberate ourselves. You take our educational system. Why are we still using colonial textbooks? The average African school system, you're lucky if you get 20-25% African history. It's still mostly history about others, mostly European history. You look at our artifacts that were stolen by the colonizers. Today, here in Zimbabwe, we're talking Brianehanda, Sekuru Kaguvi, many others. Our ancestors, their heads are sitting in jars, in basements throughout Europe. They know it. Our artifacts are littering museums throughout Europe. We Africans go to Europe and pay to see what belongs to us. I don't know if you heard the story of one Nigerian guy. He went to a museum in London, and there was a bronze statue as he entered the museum. We all know Benin bronze. They were stolen from Nigeria. So he went in there prepared with his tools, and he started unscrewing the statue. When they called security, he grabbed the statue. He said, "No, this is mine. I'm here to take it." Rightfully so. The statue belongs to Nigeria. It's a Benin bronze. Show me where you paid for it. We know it. Why do our ministers of culture continue to go to Europe when the theft, the stolen goods have not been returned? Are you getting me?
Yeah, I'm getting you.
We are so stupid, it's embarrassing sometimes.
So I think that's what we need to fix. Remember in your book, Africa 102, you talk about the contracts that we have been signing as African leaders. Contracts which leave us with nothing, and then the rest goes to Europe.
You're talking about value addition, trade?
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yes, like for example, you mentioned the issue of minerals in DRC.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the issue of 24 African states whose currency is still printed by France.
It's 14, yes.
Oh, 14
countries, yes,
14.
to this day.
Yes.
And that currency, they said, you Africans are special. We're going to create a special currency just for you. France doesn't even use it. They just create it just for the Africans, for control. So now, if any of those countries want to trade with, say, China, the money has to go through, the payment has to go through France. France takes their commission before the money goes to China. To this day. Why are we so special that you got to create a currency for us? Why can't we create our own? But again, the question I have is, this is 2022. Why haven't we gotten up and say, enough is enough? We are sick and tired of being sick and tired. We are done. We are creating our own currency. That's it. That's all they have to do. What do you think France is going to do if all the Africans come together? The problem is, if one country tries to do it on its own, there will be consequences in that country. There will be a coup, there will be instability, all kinds of things.
Sanctions and all this.
But if they all come together, if all of ECOWAS come together and said, we're done, we're going to have our own currency. What do you think France is going to do? Nothing. France needs Africa. Africa does not need France. I don't know what it's going to take for leadership to understand that. I understand that there are some logistical issues, but you know what? There are going to be some challenges. There's going to be some pain whenever we are going through these changes. Let's be prepared for them. And let's be prepared to also suffer the consequences, but knowing that once we go through this difficult time, better days are ahead. Some sacrifices have to be made. We made sacrifices here in Zimbabwe when young men and women left to go into the bush to learn how to fight, to come back so this country could be what it is today. Those moments are needed again at this time. Sacrifices must be made.
To come up with a strong African Union organization.
I think the African Union, from my own understanding, first of all, even the employees themselves, all they want to do is run the budget down at the end of the year and zero it down. They really have no plans to accomplish anything. The ones, when I was still there, they would jokingly say, oh, Ambassador, if you have any idea that you want killed, bring it to us, we'll kill it for you. They're not serious about really building a successful, productive African Union. You can't fire anybody out of the African Union. All they have to do is call their home country. Oh, they're abusing me. They're taking advantage of me. Yeah. You can't fire anybody out of the AU.
But how then do we make sure that we rebuild it, as according to what you said in your book?
The African heads of states need to dismantle it. Dismantle it and start all over. And it needs to have teeth. African Union must have sovereignty. African Union should be able to call out countries that are out of line. But right now, there's nothing African Union can do. Because if they try to be heavy-handed with a country, with a leader who's misbehaving, that leader simply say, I'm resigning from the African Union, and that's it. African Union needs to have sovereignty, and African Union needs to be given some teeth through a new constitution that understands the issues that Africa is facing today, and give African Union the ability to deal with them, and deal with them effectively, regardless of any outside influences. And we also need to make sure that the African heads of states and anyone working for the government, they're not getting brown envelopes. The problem that most African leaders are dealing with right now, they're quite compromised in the sense that some of their own ministers are on the payrolls of foreign governments. That is a serious challenge that the African leaders are dealing with right now, and it needs to be addressed. But again, it's back to the mind. Our people are defeated where it matters the most. When you accept money to go against your government, you are a sick man. And we have a lot of them who are in government today across Africa.
Maybe we need a coup d'etat against the current African Union.
Well, you can call it a coup, but again, remember, I don't call it a coup. I call it taking care of business. You see, if you're going to be taking care of business, of feeding your people, of housing your people, of getting your people employed, that is the business that I'm talking about. Do you call it a coup?
It's not a coup.
It's not a coup. It's called economic liberation. It's called economic development. It's called standing your ground and defending your turf. The rest of the world does that, except Africa. That's why I'm so proud.
So maybe young African leaders like Traore should form a parallel organization.
They already have. They created the Federation of the Sahel Nations. They're getting ready to have their own currency. They already have their own military. When there was that situation, the terrorist attack in Mali, it is the Malian forces together with the Sahel forces that thwarted the whole thing. It was dealt with decisively. That's what you do when you take care of business, when you take care and protect yours and defend your people. That's what you do. The rest of the African nations, they must follow.
When a leader stands up and says, I am taking back what belongs to my people, our wealth will no longer fund your luxury while our children go hungry, the West panics. The global powers and the compromised leaders call what is happening in the Sahel a military coup. But Dr. Arikana completely rejects that label. She demands that the African Union redefine what a coup actually is. What France has done to the 14 Francophone African nations for decades, that was the real coup. An economic coup of devastating proportions. Ever since the so-called independence era of the 1950s and 60s, 85% of the bank reserves of these 14 nations were forced to be deposited directly into the Reserve Bank of France. They were forced to give up their natural resources, forced to buy military equipment exclusively from France, and forced to have their militaries trained only by France. Dr. Arikana framed it plainly. Imagine a bully who takes your lunch every single day. When a group of young, determined men finally stand up, look that bully in the eye and say, you are not taking my lunch anymore. You don't call that a coup. That is liberation. That is the overthrowing of puppet governments to defend the turf of black men and women who are tired of being hungry. Look at the African Union itself. Dr. Arikana exposes it as a deeply compromised, tutelate organization that needs to be completely dismantled and rebuilt from scratch. For decades, the vast majority of the AU's budgets has been funded by Europe. And as the old saying goes, whoever feeds you controls you. That is exactly why the AU cannot and will not speak out forcefully against European exploitation. Even the very building they sit in was built, furnished, and wired with microphones by the Chinese. Dr. Arikana points out the absolute mockery of African heads of states flying all the way to Europe to beg for measly $40 million when the diamonds, the gold, and the wealth are sitting right on our laps. She shares the story of Kwekwe in Zimbabwe, a city so rich that citizens can literally scoop up the oil in their backyards and process gold. Yet, young people are still living to seek fortunes elsewhere because the mind has been defeated. When former leaders like Muammar Gaddafi try to move fast, bypass the brown envelopes, and use his wealth to unite the continent under the true Pan-African vision of 1963, they got rid of him. Dr. Arikana passionately corrects the narrative that Africa needs external bias. She pulls no punches, stating that the word need must be erased from the African brain. Africa does not need Europe. Europe desperately needs Africa. The division is kept alive by colonial borders designed purposefully to prevent Africans from trading with one another. Dr. Arikana calls a striking image shared by a former AU trade commissioner. A single road where women sell tomatoes on one side and women sell tomatoes on the other side. When one side runs out, the customers cannot cross what looks like a simple road because it is a colonial border. They are told they need a visa just to buy tomatoes across the street. It is a crazy, mind-boggling reality that defies logic. While Europeans and Americans move freely across dozens of states without a single barrier, Africans within the East African Community, ECOWAS, and SADC are locked behind passports and visas. The mental defeat runs deep, straight into the educational system, where children are lucky if Even 25% of their curriculum covers African history. Instead, they affect the history of their colonizers. Dr. Arikana points out the painful irony of African ancestors' heads sitting in jars in European basements and sacred artifacts, littering Western museums, while African ministers of culture pay money to go see their own stolen heritage. She highlights the righteous anger of a Nigerian man who walked into a London museum, brought out his tools, and began unscrewing a stolen Benin bronze, declaring, "This is mine and I am taking it back." The solution is happening right now on the front line. The alliance of Sahel states, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have already broken the mold. They have created their own federation, established their own joint military that decisively thwarted recent TT activities in Mali, and they are preparing to launch their own independent currency. When one nation stands alone against the French controlled currency, they face instability and orchestrated coups. But when they stand together as a unified bloc, the external powers are powerless. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we'll make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world and in Africa.